The best story I tell is when I was living in the old place, a fellow came by named Edigio Marzona, an Italian collection, or Italian-German collector. And he looked around and he says, 17,000. And I said, how do you know? He says, I have 40. I'm not going to dispute your way of counting. So, this building where I live in now, it was a factory built in 1970, I think. And it was a knitting factory. They were making t-shirts, sweatshirts. The owner was Serbian. There were a lot of immigrant workers. They were working mostly on the ground floor, which, as you can see, is concrete. It doesn't have many windows. I'm not I'm one of these people who I don't understand windows at all. And so I had very few windows. I've always had a theory that where one lives in New York is very much determined upon the activity one does. And my first residence in New York was in the housing project near Columbia. I was a grad student. Then I moved to 5th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue, and I became a hippie. But I wasn't a druggie. I was part of that hipster radical culture, and indeed wrote that way. And when I got to Soho, I started making visual art and audio art as well, and other arts, which I could never do when I was living in other places. And where I live now is a bit more neutral, I suppose. And it's not so much determining on what my activities, but I certainly do believe that where one lives in New York has been, at least for people I know, people of a certain generation, very determining of one's activity. I get lonely outside of New York. I don't get lonely at home. I always play something. And usually I listen to a lot of talk shows when I'm doing physical work. I listen to rock and roll when I'm swimming. And I listen to classical music. Usually Baroque music when I'm writing. I used to have a joke, which I guess I can still do. If you publish a little bit, but get rejected a lot in your 20s, maybe you'll get published a little bit more in your 30s and get rejected a lot. And by the time you're 80, you've been an established writer. 70s, you're an established writer. It just sort of happens that way if you keep it going. I still believe in physical books. I still believe books are the great repository of wisdom of mankind. And I hope that continues, but it certainly is under challenge.